Welcome to Mastering Life's Adventures, an educational podcast about tapping into your true self, the soul, the substance of your life, to discover what life's ups and downs are really about, and how to have a greater sense of purpose, peace, joy, and fulfillment. I am Dr. Judith Holder, your host, coach, psychologist, fellow seeker who enjoys diving into the connections between spirituality, psychology, wellness, and your everyday life's adventures. All preparing and polishing you like the facets of a magnificent diamond to be your best self. If you're craving more from your life, you are in the right place. Come, let's journey together and transforming what you know into who you really are. Mastering Life's Adventures begins now.
Hi, I'm back. We had a delightful conversation talking about love and how to increase self-love and practice it. So you may want to go back and listen to that episode, but this focus today to talk about this whole notion of immortality. You possess immortality. We don't think about that. We think about everything else. But it's an important thing for those who are seekers and listeners and walking a spiritual path for themselves is, what is this notion about immortality? So I have Farzin introduce himself, and then we'll go right into the topic and to have that as a part of our conversation today.
Thank you for having me in here. It's a pleasure to be connecting with all the people who are searching for truth. And so, my name is Farzin, and I'm a joyfulness coach and a healer and emotion code practitioner. So I help people to change their perspective so they can change their life, change their definition so they can change their life. And sometimes we feel about change, we think that change is a big thing. But sometimes just changing a definition can change everything for you. And thank you for having me in here.
Oh, you're welcome. It's really a pleasure to have you back to talk about this issue around you possess immortality. We were talking before we started to do the taping, and I thought the question around, and people would have a question about, is what is immortality?
So immortality comes from that concept that in the physical world, we are talking about time and space. So everything is limited to specific time and space. But when we go beyond the physical layers, there are layers into the lower world. It can be physical, emotional, and mental. But when we are able to go beyond those layers, then we are at the level which is beyond time and space. And in that level, because there is no time, there is no beginning, and there is no ending. That is the state of immortality. And that is our true home. We belong there, but we are just living in this physical body, in the emotional layer, in the mental layer to gain some experience. It's like a school that we are experiencing, but sometimes you feel that it is time to graduate from this school and go back home. It's a boarding school that they sent us in here, and we are going through the experiences. After we finish, we are happy to go back home. That is where we belong, the realm of immortality, which is beyond time and space.
Well, yeah, I think sometimes we don't realize that the soul, its journey and its progress and its move forward is to be able to go and reunite with the immortality of who God is and who we really are. And the soul is having a sojourn on this planet Earth to gain certain experiences, to make certain choices, as we talked about in part one. But our choices, we can take the high road, we have choices to take the low road. And if we take the low road, then our soul gets more bound to mortality. and not on the path of immortality. And so this is the keys, I think, that sometimes has been missing in the living of life, because many people ask, well, why am I here? What's my purpose? Am I just here to kind of have fun and then go somewhere? Or, the soul, there's no such thing as a soul. But there is the soul, whether the person's aware of it, they may not be connected to it. And our path is really on a path of immortality, to learn certain lessons, to go back to our true source, the higher source, the God, the Atman, the creator, whatever you want to call that. I think the concept of immortality is very fascinating. And yet said something earlier when we began to say what we're going to be talking about today was about the spark that exists within us all. Want to share more about that?
Sure. So when we take a deep understanding and look on ourselves, we are able to find that the spark, which is us, actually, we face ourselves in that spark. That spark is in your heart. And then you have to go through layers and layers to find it, but it is there all the time. So that spark of God or the creator is within us, and we are that element. Because we are that element, we carry the same attributes as God or the creator, which is immortality. What is that spark? That spark is the uniqueness that we are. We are all unique. Did you know that when it's snowing, we see those snowflakes coming down, they put them under the microscope, and they're a bunch of them together is coming down as a one snowflake, one snow that is coming down. They put them under the microscope. Nobody has found two snowflakes that are exactly the same yet. They are all unique. And how many snowflakes there are when there's snowing, a storm or something like that? Millions and millions of those. And they are all unique. And it is like us. We are all unique. God wants to express itself through those unique elements that we are. So that is the spark.
Yeah. That God is a unique spark that sparked us. That's where the sparks came from. We went out in order to learn certain lessons and also to be able to be aware of God as himself through us, whereas God's awareness of himself through us. And we realize that and sometimes people think about, what does that mean? What is that, because for the soul, it's very important to the soul. Because if we, as you sing, have all the qualities that God has, that we can make choices and rightful choices to exuberate those qualities, that then we become an outpost for the divinity. We become an outpost of God's expressing himself through us, because we become like the window pane, and in that we're expressing the uniqueness, as you're making mention of God, the uniqueness of our soul that is now growing, and be able to have an offering of service to give back to God, because ultimately God is service. So why aren't we serving and giving and helping in ways that it grows us and grows other individuals as well?
Yeah, that is the authenticity. Authenticity is that unique element that we have. And sometimes we feel that in order to progress in life, we have to copy other people. So people think in order to get advanced in different things, they need to have a system to copy successful people. But I always say that's fine, that authenticity within yourself, then you're going to be on top. Why? Because that is our life's purpose, to express our authenticity. That's why we are here. Nothing else. We have to express our authenticity. Whatever you feel that you are, the good qualities that you have, just express it to the world. and create something with that. We all are the creators.
And love what you're saying. What we have also found is that, this issue about imposter syndrome, that people feeling that they're, going to be caught or they're going to be singled out because they're going to really find out the real them, which is this, call it even posturing in oneself. And the reality is the authenticity of who you are, as opposed to comparing yourself to who you think you should be or how you should be or how you should act, actually gets you into the imposter out of the realm of the true essence of who you really are. Because you have to be able to dig, be willing to reflect, be willing to pause and think about who am I and who do I want to show up as, that is truly ties into the uniqueness of my soul and uniqueness of why God put me on this earth.
Exactly. But sometimes it's not easy to just go through those layers. You find out that the spark within yourself. And I was thinking about why is that? Why it is hard for people to find the source of joy and wisdom on the other session of the podcast. And so the thing is that I realized that there are some layers. What are those layers? So I told you the story that I got injured and somebody helped me to release those trapped emotions and those kind of things. And then I didn't have that backache anymore. So she did something else to me too. She dismantled my heart wall. What is heart wall? Heart wall is a concept that I wasn't familiar with at the time. So she explained that sometimes we go through traumatic experiences, physical, emotional trauma that we experience in our life, like loss of a loved one, or something like when you are in a relationship and then you don't get along and there's a breakup or something like that. Your heart is broken because of those situations. But our heart is very sensitive. And there is a research by a Japanese scientist. She found out that there are lines on our hearts. When he examined the heart, it was a man who examined the heart. He found out that there are lines on our hearts. And those lines represent the cracks. Like the cracks when your bone is cracked, you go to under the x-ray, take the picture, and then they find those fine lines. And so the fracture that we have on our heart because of those heartbreaks are showing up even in the medical devices. So our heart has those cracks. So our heart is very sensitive. So we have to protect our heart. And there is something called broken heart syndrome. It is exactly like a heart attack. The pain that you feel in your chest, the symptoms are exactly the same. Nobody can tell if it's a heart attack or it's a broken heart syndrome. You go to the hospital, they have to examine you to find out if it's a heart attack or not. It's a broken heart syndrome because same symptoms that you just experienced. So that is just that the result of those lines that you have on your heart, the heartbreaks moments that you have. So heart is very sensitive. We have to protect it. How do we protect it? Our subconscious mind does something for that because it's an automatic process. It grabs those trapped emotions, more than 200 trapped emotions that we have in our body, and builds a shelter around our heart with those trapped emotions. Our heart is in a shelter. It means that, let's say that there is a war, and then in order to protect ourselves, we go to the shelter because they're shedding bombs or something like that. So there's bomb shelter, we go inside and we are isolated from outside world. And now 10 years has passed from the war and I'm still living in that shelter. same feeling is when we have a heart. At the time of the trauma or problems that we had, we built that heart wall, and then we are carrying that heart wall all over the place. It is like being isolated in a cell while you are in a society. It limits your relationship with yourself. It limits your relationship with others and also with life, because you are in that container. You're in that chamber.
So when that happens and put yourself in a prison, your heart's in a prison in some ways. And it creates this barrier of protection, but it creates this, like you're saying, this barrier of isolation. That's very frightening to the soul, because the soul it gets its source and its energy through the heart. And through the heart, it also gets that sense of intuition, of knowing what to do, when to do it. It also gets this sense of aliveness, of lightness. We're realizing that we're protecting ourselves at one level, but on another level, we're also setting the soul up for disconnection and isolation and a sense of, what do I do? So again, it sometimes goes dormant then, because it doesn't know what else to do.
Exactly. So that was my experience. So she dismantled my heart wall. And what happened was I was out of that prison and I was experiencing life just as I get out of jail. You know, you are inside the jail and you cannot communicate and stuff. And then you go outside world, I'm free. So you feel that freedom from that chamber, from that jail, when your heart wall is dismantled or removed. So I had that feeling. Before that, I had problems with communicating with others. I would go to a store, and if I wanted to find something, I would never ask anybody, any assistance or something, assistant to give me the clue where I can find it. If I couldn't find it, I would go out. And then I would go to the parties. I couldn't communicate with new people where I would just sit in there in silence and say nothing for hours, before that. But after, everything was changed. I could express myself. I could talk to people freely and then have more joyous moments with others. My relationship improved and everything improved in my life after that experience. And I realized that the reason people cannot connect with that spark is, one of the reasons is the existence of heart wall. And more than 93% of people, based on the research that Dr. Bradley Nelson has done, more than 93% of people have heart wall. So it separates us from each other. And then we go through the path of fear instead of going through the path of love, because we have those two paths all the time in front of us, the path of fear and the path of love. Which one do you take? We automatically go to the path of fear because we want to protect ourselves. We want to just have that kind of guard. So we go to the path of fear. Fear is separating us from each other. Love is connecting us to each other. If we be able to open our hearts and walk the path of love, what happens is that we can experience life in its full potential. And the love and joy and expansion and impact that is coming from that is life-changing.
I can see that very much so. And it's a beautiful quality to know that, as we talked about in part one, about trapped emotions and the vibrations of them. Fear is a lower vibration, but it's a higher vibration. And so if we can walk the path that's a higher vibration, then it leads us more to joy and a greater sense of fulfillment and a greater sense of service and the giving of ourselves in ways that we were never thought about that we can help in the world around us to be a better place. And I think sometimes what we don't know about is how life experiences is impacting our heart. Yeah, we don't realize how much it does subtly cut us off. And it's like these hairline fractures. And you have 1,000 of them, these hairline fractures that take place. And we're not realizing that you're calling the heart walling off itself in order to be protected and feel more sense of security. But it's actually a false security and a false protection, because it's not ultimately having you connect to your soul, which is the true security and the true path that you're learning to walk in order to understand God's awareness of himself in you, awareness of opportunities that God is putting before you. Are you to learn certain lessons and to grow in particular ways? And also not being attuned to the fact that maybe there's another way to go in a situation, because we have a heart wall, as you're talking about, that cuts you off from that intuition that is trying to guide you and direct you, which is a part of your soul.
Exactly. And that intuition is very crucial, very important. The wisdom. I always say that everyone is just one idea away from being on top of their game. All the things that has created in the world has come from someone who received some kind of wisdom from inside to create something. Those are the last things that exist in our life. For example, the poems, the sculptures, the paintings and stuff. Somebody had that inspiration from inside to create something. They have created that, and it is lasting. And they are on top of their game. We all have that chance to be on top of our game. It is not through copying somebody else's. I give you an example. If you go to Paris, you go to the Louvre Museum, you stand in front of the Mona Lisa painting, and then you notice that a lot of people are gathering in there. It's an original painting and people are gathering there impressed. What happens if somebody just copies that? It doesn't carry the same energy. When you are creating something out of love with that higher vibration, your vibration goes into your creation. And that differentiates that thing from a copy. Because when somebody's copying, they cannot copy the energy. They just copy whatever they see. That's why all the valuable things that have created in the world are coming from inside. So that is important to keep that channel open, which is our heart.
How wonderful. That's a great analogy. What happens? Can you share a little bit about how people can open their heart a little bit more? Or, it has to be a grand amount, but I give them a sample of what that would mean for them to do something like that.
So one of the things that I recommend people can do for themselves is a protocol that I've created, which is called RISE. So R stands for recognition, recognize.
Mm-hmm.
And I stands for integrate. And S stands for surrender. And E stands for engage. So those 4 elements. So what are those? I just briefly tell you about it. So first one is recognize. So we have to recognize something in order to be able to work on it. Because if you don't recognize something, it is not existing for you. When we recognize those kind of qualities that we are carrying, those trapped emotions, whatever it is, then we are bringing that element into the light. It helps us to be able to work on it. Otherwise, it's going to be in a dark closet. We cannot see it. And then we can't do anything about it. So thing is, it is hard to see those kind of qualities in ourselves, the negative qualities. And if somebody points those to us, we just fight them. We don't like people pointing things, the behaviors that we have and stuff, like finding faults in us. We don't like that. So what is the solution? I give you a solution in here. So outside world is just a reflection. It means when there is something that I notice in someone, it means if I pay attention to that quality that that person is carrying, it means that I have that quality inside. Otherwise, I just pass. I see that, but it doesn't get stuck with me. If something gets stuck, I notice that person is jealous. Why is she doing that? She is so jealous. And I think about it, and when I talk to others about it, it means that I have that element of jealousy in myself. Otherwise, I couldn't just get stuck in there. That is something that can reveal those kind of qualities that we have. The first one is recognize. So when we recognize something, we don't judge it. We just bring it to the surface. And the second part is integrating. Integrating means instead of pushing it back, that makes it stronger. Whatever you push back, it gets stronger. Whatever you hate, you experience. Whatever your fear of, you experience more of that. Instead of pushing it back, we just bring it in. We accept it. We know that it is helping us to grow. Instead of judging it as a bad thing, we just thank for its existence and we just bring it in. So that is the integration part. And the third part is surrendering. Surrendering is that we grab the lessons, but we let everything else go. We have the choice to keep it, but it's just an accumulation of the stones on our backpack that we are carrying, and we don't have use for it. Those trapped emotions are like that. We don't need to carry those. So we have a choice. We examine them. We know that they exist. We accept them. Now, we learn the lesson. We leave everything else out. And we say, you can leave now. Thank you for...
Right. Thank you for your presence. Now you're no longer needed.
Exactly. Thank you for your presence. You're no longer needed. Yeah, you can leave now. And then you release it. After you just send it out, you have to fill this place with something. So what do you want to fill this place with? So you choose something to practice. Engage yourself with a new way of practicing things. The opposite quality of whatever, you just let it go. So that is the RISE protocol. Everybody can start practicing it. And maybe we have to go a couple of rounds to just clean something, but it is possible. I release those kind of things for people in a second or so, because as an emotion code practitioner, we are trained to just go to the subconscious mind and use the subconscious mind as a database to find the address of where it is stored or something like that. And we do some medical magnets and so on to just release those kind of stuck emotions and stuff. It is done fast, but you need a practitioner to do that for you. But you can do it for yourself with that RISE protocol. It might take longer, but it is possible.
Well, one of the things I heard you mention when you were talking about that, did you say electromagnetics? Magnets, did you say?
Yeah, there are some medical magnets that we use. Why? Because magnet...
No. What are they?
The magnet is a specific magnet that we use to release those emotions, because magnet is sometimes you take your laptop to the airport and they put it under those scanners, and then when it comes out, sometimes the information that you have on the heart is gone. Why? Because it is going through a magnetic field. So magnet has that quality that can erase the data. So we use those kind of techniques. So it's one of those techniques that I use. I have developed my own ways to release those as well. This is called joyful fixed quantum healing that I created. So I use a bunch of techniques to just release those kind of emotions and limiting beliefs, things that we store that are like the barriers, the inner barriers. That is, we carry those kind of barriers. So when you want to move forward, if you push the brake at the same time as you are pushing the gas pedal, what happens is that you are damaging the engine, That is what we do when we move forward, when we have those kind of limiting beliefs and then we have those kind of trapped emotions and we want to move forward. Sometimes we go through the burnout.
Yeah. And you know what? I think through the process of the rights that you're talking about, and also maybe through other ways in which you help people to dissolve, transmute, or to reconfigure who they are in terms of these fixed or trapped emotions is maybe the better word. I think of sometimes the issue about the soul, that the more that those layers can be taken away from the soul, that burden the soul in terms of these trapped emotions, as well as we have trapped thoughts too, that need to be eliminated in terms of those misbeliefs, false beliefs, and non-beliefs that we do have. Then when we can be able to do that and see ourselves in a different light, like that snowflake that you're talking about, the uniqueness of who we are, it does move us into understanding that within ourselves, we do possess immortality, that we're now taking the human stuff that has weighed us down, has created kind of these barriers, as you make mention of, and we've freed from those shackles to allow us to see the true essence of who we really are. And also the awareness that we do have a mission. We're here on purpose. There's something for us to be able to do and give back into the world, just as much as we're learning things from the world as well.
Exactly. So it is a fun process because we are expanding our consciousness. And when you expand your consciousness, you see things that was invisible to you before. So it's like removing those blinders and your view expands. And when your view expands, it means that you have more choices. Why? Because sometimes you have this blinder and you are on that road. You think that is it. There's no other choice. I have to move this path and there's no other choice. What happens is you remove those blinders and you notice that there is another road over there. Maybe that one leads to a better place. So now you have a choice to go through that path. The path of love instead of the path of fear.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because as we let go of some of this weight that is upon us, it actually frees us up. It frees the soul up to be able to move to higher frequencies. And the higher frequencies allows us to see more, because it's like going up the mountain. We see more and more, and we get to the top of the mountain and say, oh my God, there's so much up here. I didn't realize there are many different ways I could have went.
Yes.
That becomes really
yeah, those inner blocks or barriers are the sandbags in a hot air balloon.
Mm-hmm.
We are in a hot air balloon, and there are some sandbags that is holding us on the ground. We start taking those out and we start going off the ground. And the higher you go, the more you can see. As you are lifting up and up from the ground, you see more. So that is the way it is. We remove those bags, the sandbags, or trapped emotions or limiting beliefs, and then we experience life with a wider view. And the thing is, the limiting beliefs that you mentioned are very dominant as well. I had an experience, somebody came to my house and she was living with us for a couple of months, and she was coming from another country. And one day she said something. She was a nurse back home, and she was telling me that story. She said that in a hospital that I was working, there two people came with headaches, and they had severe headaches. And one of them was examined, and the doctors told him after the examination and test, they told him that you have severe migraine. So we're going to give you those medications and you're going to be fine. And the second person, after the examination and tests, they told him that you have a very advanced tumor in your head and you're not going to survive. You have still about a month, so you better go and say goodbye to your family and friends and be ready to pass. And then what happened was that person, the second person, passed away in less than a month, and it was expected. So the family came to grab the medical files, and they noticed something. Somebody else's name was on the file. So the person who was diagnosed with migraine had the tumor, and the person who was diagnosed with the tumor had migraine. The first person was told by the authorities, who was the medical doctors and stuff, that the first person was told that you just have a migraine, just take this pill, you're going to be fine. The tumor dissolved. And the second person had a migraine. They told him that you have this tumor, it's advanced, you're going to be dead in a month. And he died. So that is the limiting belief, the effect of limiting belief. Whatever we believe, they can kill us or cure us. And the reason that that thing went public was the complaint that the family of the second person had against the hospital staff because of that mistake. And so it went to the medical journals in that country. Otherwise, there are lots of things like that happen. Nobody finds out what is behind it and stuff like that. But that helped me realize how our limiting beliefs are affecting our lives.
Yeah. And how does that tie in to this notion about possessing immortality?
So when we think we are our thoughts, we are limited by our thoughts, and we can be changed and affect our life. But when we go beyond the thought level, at the soul level, you know that it is just an experience. We come here to this life for some specific experiences. For example, I come here, before I go down here, I'm up there in one of my life. So one of my, I believe in reincarnation. So we go through different experiences in the school of life, So it's not just a belief. It is the experience that I had from my past lives. One of the lives finishes, and then you are up there, and up there is very slow. The experiences that you have is very slow. So you want to go faster through those experiences, and you're lacking some kind of experience. For example, you're lacking forgiveness. You know that you have to experience forgiveness in order to expand as a soul. You decide to come back to this life for that opportunity to practice forgiveness. And what happens is that you need some people in here to give you the chance. So you pick some of your friends and you tell them, please come with me. I'm going to go down. I'm going to go down and practice that. I want you to play the role of that bad guy in my life so I can practice forgiveness. And then they might accept that challenge. They might not. Depends on their situation. They might say that you did that good thing to me the other life, so I'm just going to compensate for that. So I'm going to calm down. I know that I'm going to make some bad karma for myself, create some load for myself, but I'm willing to do that for you. So they come into your life. You don't remember it now, and you face those kind of challenging moments. Somebody is giving you a hard time. That is the golden moment to practice forgiveness. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose that challenge. And if we lose, we go back and come back again and stuff. We repeat that until there's a moment that we accept that challenge and we pass it with love instead of the other way around. So we pass the challenge, and that is part of our consciousness now. And then we expand and expand and expand in different levels. Everybody is expanding because the whole world is expanding. The God is expanding selves. So we're all on the move. We are like a wave. Wave is very interesting. You cannot see a wave that is standing still. It doesn't exist. Wave is always moving. So that is the quality of God. We are always moving. We are always expanding. We are like that wave. Sometimes a big wave comes into our life. It depends on our skills. It can destroy us, or you can go and ride that wave if you have that skill. So, yeah, that is very interesting. That even though I've had some friends went through those kind of experiences, one of them was a lady who came and said that I had an amazing experience. I was having a hard time with some of my family members. They were giving me a hard time. They put pieces of glass in my food, so I had to go through the injury because it ripped apart my intestine and stuff like that. So I had a hard time with them. And all of a sudden, in one of her experiences, she saw her daughter is talking to those people in that moment. And her daughter is asking those people, why did you do that to my mother? What is the reason? And they are saying that we didn't like to do that to your mother, but she asked for it. When we were coming to this life, she said that I'm just going to go through that experience. Please be with me and play that negative role for me so I can practice forgiveness. And that's what we know, that it has some consequences for us, but out of love, we just did that for her. And all of a sudden she realized that those family members are there for her. So life is her friend. Life is not hostile. Life is friendly. Whatever is happening to me is not to me, it's for me. That's a different perspective. And when we have that immortality quality of soul, all the fear of death is gone. Your life quality elevates 1,000,000 times. Change your life. The definition is I'm mortal, I'm going to be die, and I'm scared. That is what you experience. Put that definition that I am immortal, I am eternal. Then the fear of death is gone, and fear of death is the mother of all the fears that you have. Then you can go through the path of love instead of going through the path of fear.
That's well said. And I just add a piece to the family members, whether you know them or you don't know those individuals, be it family, outside the family, all experiences that we're having are to teach us and help us to have opportunities to grow by. And I think that's a great awareness that's why we can love the experience, or at least trying to figure out what the wisdom is from that experience that we're having, or what is it that we're trying to learn, especially if they keep on repeating themselves. So the soul will go through certain lessons again and again and again in order for it to refine certain things, let go of certain things, like you're saying, to love or to forgive. So it's interesting. I think there is a lot of simplicity within the complexity of how life works in our worlds. And each one is unique, as that you said earlier in the last part one. There's no two snowflakes alike. There's no two experiences going to be exactly alike. Each is trying to help us to grow to love in love. So I think that's a great perspective to end on, and also to be aware of that love is immortality. Our love, we increase the amount of immortality that we really then possess, and therefore we change our frequency, we change our life, we change our perspective about how we interact on a day-to-day basis. Is there a phrase or a statement that you would like to leave our seekers with before we end today?
Yeah, the statement is change the way you look at things, and then the things you look at change.
Please let them know again how they can reach you if they wish to kind of make contact.
So my website is joyfulfix.com, and they can reach me through the contact page in that website. There is actually a quiz, a free quiz that people can take, and then they can connect with me. They can leave their voice message on the website. They can record their voice and receive their message. We can just communicate and arrange for a free consultation, and they can just have some insight on how they can improve their life. They can take that path themselves, or I can help them out. The booklet that I was talking about is if they go to joyfulfix.com/stress-free, they can download that book. And there are some insights in there they can practice.
Great. It's been a wonderful conversation, especially the conversations related to heart walk, because I think, your work in that area is so impactful, and it will be powerful for individuals, because if we can free our heart, then we also move ourselves to be able to have greater experiences in love, which moves us into the immortality and frequencies that we want to be more of in order to be what God ultimately wants us to be, His servants, and serving and being purposeful and intentional about our life and how we're living it.
Yeah, when I remove people's heart wall, I see miracles in their life, all the time. Almost on a daily basis, I see those miracles. It's amazing.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, seekers, it's something to think about. It's been a pleasure to have you, and we say bye for now.
Thank you for joining me for this episode on Mastering Life's Adventures, being your best self through soul evolution. If you have enjoyed what you've heard today, I would be delighted if you would share this episode with others, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe to my Mastering Life's Adventures podcast. Look forward to your joining the next episode. Please leave any comments or suggestions you might have below. Bye for now.